yo, I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now and pay attention to what is happening in Lake Forest, because the Chicago Bears just did something that does not get nearly enough credit in the national conversation, and I am not going to let it get buried under flashier headlines. While everyone else is talking about the big names and the blockbuster trades and the splashy free agency moves, the Bears quietly went out and built what I am fully prepared to argue is the most dangerous tight end room in professional football. Not one of the most dangerous. The most dangerous. And today we have got two massive stories to break down that together paint a complete picture of just how loaded this position group has become. I'm Fave, this is Faves, and today we are going deep on the contract news that officially locks in every member of Chicago's rookie draft class, the ESPN Power Rankings that just put Colson Loveland on the national map as one of the premier tight ends in the entire league, and what all of it means for a Bears offense that under Ben Johnson is shaping up to be one of the most creative and most difficult to defend in the entire NFL. Let's get into it. Let's start with the contract news, because this is the kind of story that gets pushed to the back of the room when there are bigger names generating headlines, and that is a mistake, because what this represents goes far beyond a single roster transaction. Rookie tight end Sam Rouch has officially signed his rookie contract, and with that signature, every single member of Chicago's 2025 draft class is now officially under contract heading into training camp. 4 years, $7,350,000 total. That works out to an average annual value of less than $2 million per season. Less than $2 million per year for a player that multiple draft analysts considered one of the best tight end prospects available in this entire class. Let me give you a moment to sit with that number, because it is genuinely remarkable when you understand what it means in the context of how the modern NFL works. The teams that build sustained championship contenders in this league are not the ones who chase every free agent headline. They are the ones who develop young, cost-controlled talent on rookie deals and then use the financial flexibility that creates to pay their true franchise cornerstones. Every dollar you save on a rookie contract is a dollar available when Caleb Williams' extension comes due. Every spot on the salary cap you protect through smart draft development is a resource you can allocate toward adding the veteran pieces that complete a championship roster. Ryan Poles and this front office understand that math as well as anyone in the league right now, and the Rouch signing is the latest evidence of a front office philosophy that is building this team the right way. Now let's talk about who Sam Rouch actually is, because plenty of Bears fans had questions when he was selected, and I want to address those questions with the full picture. Coming out of Stanford, Rouch played 12 games in his final college season, hauling in 49 receptions for 545 yards, averaging 11.1 yards per catch, and scoring 2 receiving touchdowns. He stands 6'5" and weighs 260 pounds, which reportedly made him the heaviest tight end in this entire draft class. And then you get into the athletic testing, and the questions start to fade pretty quickly. Rouch posted a relative athletic score of 9.99 out of a possible 10. Think about what that number means. Out of every tight end prospect who has ever gone through the athletic testing process, Rouch's combination of size, speed, and explosiveness places him in the absolute top tier. He ran a 4.74 40-yard dash. He posted a 38.5-inch vertical jump. Those are not just good numbers for a tight end. Those are elite numbers for a skill position player at any level of competition. But here's the thing about Rouch that I think gets missed in the coverage of this signing. He is not walking into a tight end room where he is expected to carry the load immediately. He is walking into a room that is already loaded, and that context changes everything about how you evaluate his role and his development timeline. When you are a young player trying to learn the NFL game, there is no better environment than one where you are surrounded by veteran competence and established production. Rouch gets to develop at his own pace, contribute where he can, and absorb everything that Cole Kmet and Colson Loveland are doing every single day in practice. That is an incubator for development. That is exactly the kind of environment that turns good prospects into great players. Now let's talk about the full tight end room picture, because this is where it gets genuinely exciting, and I want you to understand the complete scope of what the Bears have assembled here. You have Cole Kmet at 6'6", 257 pounds, entering his 6th NFL season out of Notre Dame. Still just 27 years old with 2 years remaining on his current contract. This is a player who has been one of the most consistent and reliable tight ends in the NFC for multiple seasons, a player whose value in both the run game and the passing game gives Ben Johnson tremendous flexibility in how he designs offensive personnel packages. You have Colson Loveland, 22 years old, 6'5", a first-round pick who, as a rookie last season, did things that rookies at this position simply do not typically do. And now you add Sam Rouch, also 22 years old, 6'5", 260 pounds, with a 10 out of 10 athletic profile, coming in on a 4-year deal that gives the Bears cost certainty at the position for years to come. Throw in developmental tight end Hayden Large, a 6'4", 250 prospect out of Iowa who the front office was reportedly very enthusiastic about. And you are looking at a 4-deep tight end room where the 3rd and 4th options on the depth chart have athletic profiles that would make them legitimate starters on most NFL rosters. The athletic testing across this group is almost absurd when you lay it all out together. Rouch's 9.99 relative athletic score, Kmet's 8.92 score coming out of his own draft process with a 4.74 40 and a 37-inch vertical. Large matching Kmet's 8.92 with a 4.72 40 and a 34.5-inch vertical. The size and speed combination stacked 3 and 4 deep at a single position is the kind of thing that makes defensive coordinators genuinely uncomfortable when they are sitting in their film rooms trying to figure out how to account for it all. And here's the football context that makes all of those numbers matter even more. Ben Johnson is not just any offensive coordinator turned head coach. He is one of the most creative offensive minds in the league, a coach who has spent his career finding innovative ways to leverage multiple tight end formations to create matchup problems that defenses simply cannot solve. When you have 3 tight ends who can all line up in line, in the slot, or split out wide, when opposing defenses cannot tell from formation whether they are about to face a run play with 2 tight ends at the point of attack or a 3-level passing concept that stresses every zone coverage simultaneously, you have a structural advantage that goes beyond any individual player's talent. The Bears are not just building a position group. They are building a system-level weapon. And they are doing it on rookie contracts. Fave's personal opinion on this tight end room, I think it is genuinely the most underrated story of this entire Bears offseason. Everyone wants to talk about the wide receivers. Everyone wants to talk about the pass rush additions and the defensive line and what happens with the cornerback competition. And those are all legitimate conversations. But the tight end room is where this offense could separate itself from every other team in the NFC. When Ben Johnson starts deploying 2 and 3 tight end packages with Loveland, Kmet, and Rouch rotating through formations, defenses are going to be forced to choose between their run-stopping personnel and their coverage personnel on every single snap. There is no perfect answer to that problem, and the Bears are about to spend 17 weeks finding every possible way to exploit it. Now let's pivot to the ESPN story because this is the one that has the Bears fan base talking, and I want to break it down completely. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler surveyed coaches, executives, and coordinators around the league for their position power rankings. And Colson Loveland came in at number 7 among all tight ends in the NFL heading into this season. Number 7 in his second year after one rookie season. And while I understand the excitement and I share a significant portion of it, I also want to have the honest conversation about whether that ranking is accurate, underselling him, or about right, given the full context. Let's start with what Loveland actually did as a rookie, because the numbers tell a story that you do not often see from first-year tight ends in this league. 58 receptions, 713 receiving yards, 6 total touchdowns, an average of 12.3 yards per catch across 16 games, and critically, he led the entire Chicago Bears roster in receiving yards. A rookie tight end in his first NFL season was the leading receiver on an offense that includes established wide receivers and a franchise quarterback throwing the football. That is genuinely rare. That is the kind of production that typically takes tight ends 3 or 4 years to develop into, and Loveland was doing it in year 1. But the number that really tells the story of where Loveland is heading is his production over the final stretch of last season, including the playoffs. Over his final 4 games, he caught 28 passes for 378 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging nearly 100 receiving yards per game, with a target share sitting at 29%. 29%. That means on more than 1 out of every 4 pass plays Caleb Williams was dropping back to throw, Loveland was the intended target. That is not a complimentary piece. That is an offense running through its tight end as a primary option. And according to the ESPN reporting, that production is exactly why multiple teams reportedly tried to trade up to acquire the 10th overall pick in the 2025 draft before the Bears made the selection. People around the league saw this coming. The Bears were just smart enough to be the ones who got him. The anonymous coordinator quote that ESPN included in their piece is worth dwelling on. A coordinator who goes on record, even anonymously, to call a 22-year-old tight end unbelievable and specifically praise his movement skills and toughness, that is a man who has watched a lot of film on Loveland and come away genuinely impressed. These are not people who throw superlatives around loosely. These are professionals whose entire job is to identify weaknesses and find ways to exploit them. When a defensive coordinator calls your player unbelievable, that is the highest possible form of compliment in this league. The passer rating number is the one that I keep coming back to because it contextualizes everything else about the Loveland and Caleb Williams connection. When Williams targeted Loveland last season, his passer rating on those throws was 120.1. For reference, the average NFL starting quarterback posted a passer rating somewhere around 90 to 100 across the entire 2024 season. Caleb Williams, specifically when throwing to Colson Loveland, was performing at a level that is 20 to 30 points above average quarterback performance. That is not coincidence. That is not noise in the data. That is 2 players who have found a genuine connection that makes both of them significantly more dangerous than they would be operating independently. Now let's talk about the ranking itself and why some Bears fans feel it undersells Loveland, because I think this conversation is legitimate and worth having honestly. 7th overall places him behind 6 other tight ends, 2 of whom are division rivals. Sam Laporta sits at 4th on the list. Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers sits at 6th, directly ahead of Loveland. And I understand the frustration there. When you look at what Loveland produced in his rookie year compared to what Kraft produced in his first 2 seasons, the case for Loveland being the superior player is not difficult to make. There is also a broader pattern that Bears fans have noticed over the years, a tendency for national media to apply what I would call a Chicago tax to their evaluations, a slight but persistent discount on Bears players that would not be applied to players on more glamorous franchises. Whether that is fair or not is a debate for another day. But when you see Loveland sitting behind a Green Bay tight end in a national power ranking, that conversation is going to happen. Fave's personal ranking of Loveland, I have him 3rd. And I want to be clear about why I am not putting him 1st or 2nd, because it is not a lack of belief in what he is capable of. It is an acknowledgement that there are still 2 or 3 proven elite veterans at this position who have earned the benefit of the doubt based on sustained performance over multiple seasons at the highest level. Loveland has one spectacular season on his resume. The trajectory suggests he is going to add many more. But trajectory is not the same as proven, sustained excellence. And I think being intellectually honest about that distinction is important, even when the player you are evaluating is a guy you are genuinely excited about. In 2 years, maybe 1 year, I think the Loveland conversation shifts to number 1 overall, and I will make that argument without hesitation. Right now, 3rd is where the evidence lands me. What I will say, without any qualification or hedge, is this. The Bears are building something at tight end that the rest of the NFC has to be paying very close attention to. When you have Loveland developing into a legitimate number 1 option in an NFL passing offense, when you have Cole Kmet providing veteran competence and blocking reliability and still plenty of production as a secondary option, when you have Sam Rouch coming in with a nearly perfect athletic profile on a rookie deal that gives the team financial flexibility for years, and when you have a head coach who has built his entire offensive philosophy around leveraging the tight end position to create structural advantages that cannot be covered with standard defensive personnel, you have a recipe for something genuinely special. The Bears have quietly assembled the kind of position group that championship offenses are built around. And what makes it even more remarkable is how efficiently they have done it. None of these players cost a fortune. None of these deals blow up the salary cap or limit the front office's flexibility to continue building the roster around this core. Rouch on a $7 million 4-year deal. Loveland still on his rookie contract with years of cost-controlled production ahead. Kmet locked in with 2 years remaining. This is what sustainable roster building actually looks like. Not chasing every big name in free agency, but identifying and developing the right players at the right time on contracts that allow the organization to keep adding around them. This tight end room is not a position group anymore. It is a statement. It is a declaration from Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson that the Chicago Bears are not finished building, that the standard in this building is championship or nothing, and that they are going to find every possible competitive advantage available to them in the construction of this roster. I am Fave, this is Faves, and if you are not locked in on this Bears offseason right now, you are genuinely missing one of the most exciting stories in the NFL. Smash that like button if this tight end room has you fired up. Drop your Loveland ranking in the comments. Where do you have him among all tight ends in the league right now? I want to see your numbers. Subscribe if you are not already part of this community, because we are going to be covering every single development out of Hollis Hall all the way through training camp and into the season. Bear down. See you in the next one.